was a skeptic, the kind of person who rolled my eyes at grainy trail cam photos and laughed at eyewitness testimonies from people who couldn't tell a bear from Bigfoot. I'd spent 12 years as a hydrologist for the Army Corps of Engineers, and in that time I'd learned that nature operates on physics, not folklore. Sasquatch didn't exist. Simple as that. My name is James Carver, and I was wrong about everything. It was March 2023 when the Klamath River Basin experienced what meteorologists called a 1,000-year flood event. An atmospheric river parked over Northern California for 6 days straight, dumping 43 inches of rain on already saturated ground. The Klamath swelled to record levels, towns evacuated, roads washed out, and I was deployed with an emergency response team to assess dam integrity and coordinate water release protocols. We were based out of Happy Camp, a small town that was barely holding on as floodwaters carved new channels through what used to be Main Street. My job was to monitor tributary flows in the backcountry, areas where no one lived, but where water accumulation could affect downstream infrastructure. On March 19th, I was checking a monitoring station on Little Elk Creek, about 8 miles into the Six Rivers National Forest. The creek had become a raging torrent, brown water churning with debris, trees, boulders, the occasional remnant of a structure from upstream. I was documenting flow rates when I heard it, not over the roar of the water. That would have been impossible, but a sound that cut through everything else. A vocalization, distressed, desperate, unmistakably aware. I'd heard plenty of animals in crisis. Elk trapped in mud, bears caught in snares, coyotes with broken legs. This was different. This carried intention, a call for help that transcended species. I moved along the bank following the sound. Around a bend, where the creek had undercut a massive cedar and created a churning eddy, I saw it. A figure, dark-furred, massive, clinging to branches that were visibly failing under the hydraulic pressure. My first thought, someone's in the water. A person. I have to help. My second thought as I got closer, that's not a person. The proportions were wrong. The arm spanned too wide. The head too integrated with the shoulders. And when it turned to look at me when those eyes met mine, I saw intelligence that froze me in place. I didn't believe in Bigfoot, but Bigfoot was drowning right in front of me, and I had maybe 3 minutes to save it before the branches gave way, and the current took it over the falls 200 yards downstream. Training takes over in emergencies. You don't think, you act according to protocols drilled into muscle memory. Drowning victim, swift water, immediate hazard. I grabbed the throw rope from my pack, standard swiftwater rescue equipment, 50 feet of floating line with a weighted bag. I'd practiced this drill dozens of times in training exercises, but I'd never thrown it to something that might not understand what it was. "Hey!" I shouted over the roar of the water. "Hey!" The creature turned its head. Those eyes, dark, deep-set, but unmistakably focused, locked onto me. And in that moment I saw something that shattered 14 years of rational scientific certainty, recognition, understanding, hope. "I'm going to throw you a line," I demonstrated, holding up the rope bag. "You grab it, I'll pull you in." It made a sound, not a word, but an acknowledgement. A vocalization that said, "I understand" as clearly as any language. I threw. The bag sailed across the gap, landing 3 feet short. The current was too strong, the distance too far from my position on the bank. The creature lunged for it anyway, releasing one hand from the branches. Missed. Nearly lost its grip entirely. The branches cracked ominously. "Shit," I muttered. I had to get closer. There was a fallen log extending maybe 15 feet into the current, partially submerged, slick with moss, but potentially stable. I tested it with 1 foot. It held. Barely. "Don't let go," I called. "I'm coming closer." I inched onto the log, rope bag ready, my entire body screaming that this was insane. The log shifted with each step. The water boiled around it. One slip and I'd be in the same situation, caught in hydraulics that would pin me against debris or drag me over the falls. But the creature was watching me, waiting, trusting me to help. I reached a position about 20 feet away. Close enough. I wound up and threw again. This time the bag landed within reach. The creature grabbed it with one massive hand, fingers so human-like it was jarring. The hand wrapped around the rope with dexterity that no ape possessed. "I've got you." I braced myself, wrapping the line around my waist, using my body weight as anchor. "Don't let go." I pulled. The The creature pushed off from the failing branches and entered the current fully. For a terrifying moment, I thought we'd both be dragged in. The weight was enormous, easily 600 pounds of waterlogged muscle and fur. The log beneath me groaned, but the creature was helping, using the rope for guidance but also swimming with shocking competence. Powerful strokes that caught eddies, used the current's variations, demonstrated understanding of water dynamics. It knew how to swim, not dog paddling, not flailing, actual technique. I pulled hand over hand, backing along the log, every muscle straining. The creature got a hand on the log, then the other hand. Then it was hauling itself up, the log sinking lower but holding, water streaming off dark brown fur that was almost black when wet. We both made it to the bank, collapsed, breathing hard. I lay there for maybe 30 seconds, just processing what had happened. Then I sat up and looked at him. The anatomy was unmistakably male, even obscured by wet fur. He was sprawled on the muddy bank, chest heaving, maybe 8 feet tall, proportioned like a human, scaled up and thickened. Massive shoulders, long arms, legs built for both bipedal walking and climbing, and the face. God, the face. Not ape, not human, something in between. Heavy brow ridge, broad nose, prognathic jaw, but the eyes held expression, intelligence, personhood. We stared at each other, two beings who shouldn't exist in the same reality, both too exhausted to process the impossibility. Then he made a sound, low, gentle, the tone unmistakable. "Thank you." "You're welcome," I said automatically. He tilted his head, surprised maybe that I'd responded. Then he tried to stand, made it halfway up and collapsed, favoring his left leg. I saw why immediately. A massive gash across the thigh, deep enough to expose muscle, bleeding heavily. "You're hurt." I moved closer, hands visible, non-threatening. "That needs treatment, pressure at minimum, or you'll bleed out." He watched me approach, wary, but not aggressive. When I reached for my first aid kit, he tensed. When I pulled out gauze and bandages, he relaxed slightly. "I'm going to wrap this," I said, demonstrating on my own arm. "Stop the bleeding. It'll hurt, but it'll help." I don't know how much he understood, but when I approached his leg, he held still. "Let me examine the wound. Let me pack it with gauze and wrap it with pressure bandages designed for human limbs but barely adequate for his size." He made sounds throughout. Not pain vocalizations, but something else. Running commentary, maybe. Acknowledgement. Communication. I couldn't translate but could feel the intent behind. When I finished, I sat back. "That'll hold for a few hours, but you need real medical attention. Antibiotics, sutures." He examined the bandage with those impossibly dexterous fingers. Then he looked at me and made a complex vocalization. Multiple tones, clear structure, obvious meaning even if I couldn't parse the specifics. "I understand. Thank you. I need to go now." He stood, testing the leg. Limped heavily but functional. Turned toward the forest. Stopped. Looked back at me one more time and placed his right hand over his chest. A gesture so human it made my throat tight. Then he was gone, disappearing into the undergrowth with speed that seemed impossible for something his size and injured. I sat there in the rain, my rescue rope still coiled at my feet, my hands shaking, my entire worldview shattered. Bigfoot was real. I'd just saved one from drowning, and I had absolutely no idea what to do with that information. I decided, in that moment, to do nothing, to file my routine report about creek flow rates and return to base. To keep my mouth shut and my head down. That was my first mistake, because 3 days later a black SUV pulled up to my motel. 2 people in suits got out, and one of them had a photograph of me, on that log, pulling something massive from the water. "Mr. Carver," the woman said, showing me a badge that identified her as Department of Interior Wildlife Services. "We need to talk about what you rescued from Little Elk Creek." Her name was Dr. Melissa Torres. The man with her was Agent Frank Reeves, Department of Interior Law Enforcement. They sat across from me in my motel room, a laptop open between us, showing the photograph that ended my anonymity. It had been taken from a distance, telephoto lens, probably from the ridgeline above the creek. The resolution was good enough to show me on the log, the rope extended, and the unmistakable shape of something large and bipedal in the water. "Before you deny anything, Doctor," Torres said, "we have 3 separate images from different angles. Wildlife cameras repositioned after the flood warnings. We were monitoring the area for displaced animals. I helped someone who was drowning," I said carefully. "That's it. Someone." Agent Reeves leaned forward. You're sticking with someone? A person was in distress. I rendered aid. End of story. Dr. Torres closed the laptop. Mr. Carver, we're not here to arrest you or discredit you. We're here because you've had direct contact with a species we've been monitoring for 17 years, and we need to know everything about that encounter. I felt cold. You've been monitoring them. Passively. Remotely. Never with direct contact. She pulled out another file. There's a small population in the Klamath Basin. Maybe 8 individuals. We've documented them through trail cameras, environmental DNA, scat analysis, but we've never had a close encounter, never had contact. Until me. Until you. She opened the file, showing me maps with marked territories, photographs of tracks, analysis reports. This wasn't cryptozoology. This was legitimate scientific documentation. What we need from you is detailed information, physical characteristics, behavior during the rescue, any vocalizations, injuries, everything. Why? I asked. If you've been monitoring them for 17 years, why do you need my observations? Agent Reeves answered, because in 6 hours, a multi-agency task force is arriving. Fish and Wildlife, Forest Service, CDC, and DOD. They're classifying the flood as a critical event for endangered species assessment, which means they're going to sweep that entire drainage, document everything, and secure any individuals they find for medical evaluation and study. Secure? You mean capture? I mean protect, Dr. Torres said, but her eyes said she knew better. The official position is that this is a conservation effort. Unknown primate species critically endangered, displaced by natural disaster. We need to assess population health, genetic viability, immediate threats. Bullshit, I said. You want to study them, lock them up, turn them into research subjects. Some people want that, yes. She leaned forward. I don't. I've spent 17 years arguing for a non-intervention protocol. Passive observation only. Let them exist undisturbed. But I'm outvoted, outnumbered, and out of authority. So my options are limited. Then why are you here? Because you made contact, which means you might be able to make contact again. And if we're going into that forest with tranquilizer guns and capture teams, I want someone there who sees them as people, not specimens. Someone who might be able to facilitate communication, reduce trauma. You want me to help you catch them. I want you to help me protect them from the people who are going to catch them regardless. Her voice was intense. This is happening, Mr. Carver, with or without you. The question is whether it happens with someone present who gives a damn about their welfare. I looked at the photographs again, the tracks, the territorial maps, 17 years of documentation, and these beings had remained free. Now, because of a flood and my rescue, everything was about to change. What happens if I refuse? Agent Reeves answered. You'll be classified as an uncooperative witness, possibly charged with obstruction, and you'll sit in a cell while the operation proceeds anyway. That's coercion. That's reality. Dr. Torres closed the file. I'm not proud of it, but I'm pragmatic. I need allies in that forest, and you're the only person who's had peaceful contact. So I'm asking, will you help me minimize the harm? I thought about him. The creature, the person, I'd pulled from the water, the intelligence in those eyes, the trust he'd shown in letting me treat his wound, the dignity in that final gesture before he disappeared. If I agree, what's my role? Observer and consultant. You help us locate them. You provide behavioral context, and if we achieve contact, you act as mediator, I guess. Someone they might recognize. Someone who might be able to communicate that we're not a threat. Even though you are. Even though we are, she admitted. But threat mitigation is still mitigation. It's better than nothing. I made a decision that I've questioned every day since. I want conditions. I want your word that no lethal force will be used, that any capture will be temporary, assessment only, not imprisonment, and that I have authority to call off any action I judge to be unnecessarily traumatic. I can't guarantee, then I don't help. And you go in there blind with no one who knows anything about their behavior or cognition. Your call. She and Reeves exchanged looks. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, she nodded. I'll do what I can, but understand, I'm not in command. I'm a consultant, same as you. We can advise. We can't control the outcome. Then we advise hard. Agreed. She stood, offered her hand. I shook it, feeling like I just made a deal with the devil, or maybe just with the only devil who was willing to negotiate. We deploy at 0600 tomorrow. she said. Briefing at 0500. Bring weather gear and hiking boots. It's going to be a long week. After they left, I sat on the motel bed, staring at my hands. The same hands that had thrown that rope, that had bandaged his wounds, that had just agreed to help track him down. I told myself I was doing the right thing, that my presence might prevent worse outcomes, that someone needed to advocate for them from inside the operation. But I knew the truth. I'd saved his life on that creek bank, and now I was going to betray him. The only question was whether I could live with that. The briefing was held in a Forest Service warehouse converted to a temporary command center. 37 people, scientists, law enforcement, military contractors. The operation had a name, Sage Grouse Relocation. Official cover story to explain the heavy presence in the forest. The real mission was displayed on screens at the front. Cryptid Retrieval and Assessment Protocol. They were calling them cryptids. Not people, not a species yet unnamed. Cryptids, the language of mystery and mythology, not science and rights. I sat next to Dr. Torres in the back. She'd gotten me security clearance somehow. Temporary consultant status that gave me access but no authority. Around us, people reviewed maps, checked equipment, discussed strategy like this was a military operation. Because it was. The operation commander was Colonel Marcus Wade, on loan from USFWS law enforcement, but clearly military in bearing and approach. He stood at the front, laser pointer in hand, outlining the plan. We have high confidence in 4 potential shelter locations based on historical data and post-flood predictive modeling. Teams Alpha through Delta will approach these locations simultaneously at 800 hours. Rules of engagement: non-lethal force only. Tranquilizer protocol for any subject that poses resistance. Priority is safe capture and transport to the medical assessment facility. Where is this facility? Someone asked. Classified. Secure location with veterinary surgical capacity and containment appropriate for large primates. Containment. The word hung in the air like a threat. Dr. Torres raised her hand. What's the protocol for young? If we encounter juveniles? Same protocol. Sedation, assessment, family units kept together when possible. When possible, she repeated. And when it's not possible, we adapt to circumstances. Colonel Wade's tone suggested the discussion was over. Mr. Carver, you're embedded with Alpha Team. Your role is strictly observational and advisory. You will not interfere with capture operations. Clear? Clear, I said, though nothing about this was clear. We deployed at dawn. Alpha Team consisted of 8 people. 4 law enforcement, 3 scientists, and me. We hiked in silence toward what the briefing had called Shelter Location Alpha, a cave system approximately 3 miles from where I'd made the rescue. Team leader was Agent Sarah Chen, experienced in wildlife operations, professional and efficient. She'd been briefed on my encounter but treated me with polite skepticism, like I was a civilian who'd gotten lucky and might now be a liability. We reached the cave system at 0747 hours. Chen deployed her team in a perimeter while the scientists set up monitoring equipment, thermal cameras, audio arrays, air sampling for environmental DNA. Dr. Ellis Karn, the lead biologist, reviewed the thermal data. 2 large signatures, deep in the cave system. Stationary, possibly sleeping. Can you confirm species? Chen asked. Size and heat signature consistent with target parameters. But I need visual confirmation. Chen looked at me. You're up. We need you to identify whether these are our subjects. You want me to go in there? You've had contact. They might recognize you, might not immediately perceive you as a threat. She was asking, but the 8 personnel with tranquilizer rifles suggested it wasn't really a question. I took a flashlight and entered the cave. The scientists' earlier reconnaissance had mapped the layout. 30 yards of descending passage, then a larger chamber. I moved slowly, boots scraping on stone, announcing my presence. The passage opened into a chamber maybe 20 feet across. My flashlight swept the space, revealing 2 figures against the far wall. One was him, the creature I'd rescued. I recognized the build, the specific pattern of fur color. His leg was still bandaged, my improvised field dressing, now dirty but intact. The other was smaller, slighter, with lighter brown fur, female from the proportions. She was curled against him, and he had one massive arm around her shoulders. They were awake, watching me. No aggression, but absolute wariness. I raised my empty hands. It's me, from the creek. I helped you. He made a sound, low, questioning. recognition but also confusion. "Why are you here?" "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "There are people outside. They're coming for you. They want to. They say it's to help," but he understood. His posture changed immediately, protective, preparing for threat. The female made a distressed sound. "Please," I said, "don't fight them. They have tranquilizers. If you resist, they'll justify using more force. But if you come peacefully," the male vocalized. Sharp, unmistakable meaning. "You betrayed us." "Yes," I admitted. "I did. I'm sorry, but I'm here trying to minimize." He stood, 8 feet of muscle and fury, his injured leg barely slowing him. The female tried to pull him back, but he stepped forward, and I saw in his eyes exactly what I deserved. Not violence, disappointment. He'd trusted me. I'd saved his life, and I'd led his enemies directly to him. "Mr. Carver." Agent Chen's voice came from the passage behind me, sharp and commanding. "Step aside." "Wait, step aside now. That's an order." I moved, because I was a coward, because I didn't know what else to do. Chen entered with 3 personnel, tranquilizer rifles raised. "Federal agents, do not resist. We are here to provide medical assistance and ensure your safety." The words were absurd, delivered to beings who didn't speak English, in a situation where armed humans cornered frightened individuals in their shelter. The male roared, not an animal sound, a word, in his language, that I somehow understood meant Number Chen gave the signal. 3 darts fired. The male took 2 in the chest, 1 in the shoulder. He staggered, tried to charge, collapsed. The female screamed, a sound so human it shattered something in my chest. She tried to reach him, and they shot her too. She went down beside him, her hand reaching for his even as consciousness faded. I stood there, watching 2 people fall unconscious on cold stone, and understood that every justification I'd built, every rationalization about harm reduction and advocacy, was a lie I'd told myself to avoid admitting what I really was. A collaborator, a betrayer, a Judas goat who'd led the innocent to slaughter. "Subject secured," Chen reported into her radio. "Prepare for medical transport." Dr. Torres entered the cave, knelt beside them, checking vitals with professional detachment that couldn't quite hide the disgust in her eyes when she looked at me. "They're healthy," she announced. "No signs of malnutrition or disease. Ready for transport." Healthy. They'd been healthy, hidden, surviving, until I'd saved one of them, until I'd exposed them, until I'd destroyed everything they'd built in the name of protection they never asked for. The medical assessment facility was a converted National Guard armory 40 miles from the capture site. Reinforced holding cells, veterinary surgical suite, observation rooms with one-way glass. They'd built a prison and called it a hospital. I watched through that glass as they worked on the male. The one I now knew was called Walker, based on the acoustic signatures Dr. Torres had documented. The veterinarians treated his leg wound properly, removing my amateur bandaging and replacing it with surgical sutures and proper antibiotics. He was unconscious on a steel table, massive and vulnerable, while 6 people poked and prodded and collected samples. Blood draws, tissue biopsies, dental impressions, full-body radiographs. They were processing him like evidence. Dr. Torres stood beside me, watching the same scene. "They're being careful," she said. "No unnecessary pain. Full anesthesia protocol. That's supposed to make this better? It's supposed to make it not worse." She pulled up a tablet, showing me the data they'd collected. He's approximately 27 years old, based on dental wear and bone density, 780 pounds. Completely healthy except for the leg wound, which is healing well. Genetic analysis shows he's from a distinct hominid lineage, closer to Homo than Pan, but divergent for at least 800,000 years. So he's human. He's hominid. The definition of human is complicated. She switched screens. But yes, genetically closer to us than to any great ape, which raises significant questions about legal status, rights, ethical treatment, questions you're asking while he's locked in a cell. Questions I've been asking for 17 years while people like Colonel Wade planned operations like this. She closed the tablet. "Don't mistake my cooperation for approval, Mr. Carver. I'm here to document, to advocate, and to ensure that whatever happens, there's a scientific record that tells the truth, even if that truth is ugly." On the table, Walker stirred, trying to wake. The veterinarians increased the anesthetic, keeping him unconscious, keeping him compliant. "What happens next?" I asked. "Depends on the assessment findings. If they're healthy, If the population seems viable, the official recommendation will probably be monitored release with tracking devices. If there are health concerns or if someone decides they're too valuable for field research, she trailed off. Permanent captivity, long-term protective custody, that's the language they'll use. That's still prison. Yes, it is. She looked at me directly. Which is why I need you to do something. Something that might cost you your consultant status and possibly your freedom. What? Walker's mate, River, we're calling her, is pregnant. Early second trimester based on ultrasound, which means their population has active breeding, which means there might be others. Juveniles, extended family, a viable group. The operation is expanding. Teams Charlie and Delta found evidence of 3 more individuals in adjacent territories. There's going to be a second wave of captures. They want the entire population documented and secured. How many total? We think 8 to 12 individuals in the Klamath Basin, maybe more in adjacent wilderness areas. This could become a multi-state operation. She pulled up a map on her tablet. But here's what the official assessments aren't showing. Walker and River are from a family group. 2 juveniles, definitely. Possibly an elder. They're in territory we haven't swept yet, here in the upper drainage. She was showing me their location, deliberately, giving me information I shouldn't have. Why are you telling me this? Because you have a choice to make. You can continue helping us capture them, all of them, and hope that captivity is humane. Or you can do something else. Like what? Like giving them a chance to run. The second wave doesn't deploy until tomorrow. That's 16 hours. If someone were to reach that family group and warn them, help them relocate deeper into the wilderness somewhere beyond our search parameters, they might avoid capture, at least temporarily. You're asking me to sabotage a federal operation. I'm asking you to fix what you broke. You exposed Walker, you led us to him. Now you can give his family a fighting chance. I'll be arrested, charged. I'll lose everything. Probably. But you'll also be able to look at yourself in the mirror. Your call. She walked away, leaving the tablet on the observation desk. The map still displayed. The family's location marked clearly. I watched Walker on that table, unconscious, helpless, stripped of dignity and freedom because I'd saved his life. I thought about River, pregnant, terrified, locked in a cell because I'd brought federal attention to their existence. And I thought about their juveniles, their family, still free, still hidden, still having a chance if someone acted fast enough. The choice was obvious, but it took me 2 hours to find the courage to make it. At 2300 hours, I walked out of the facility, told the security I needed to return to my motel for personal items. They waved me through. I was consultant, not prisoner. Not yet. I drove to my truck, loaded my hiking gear, and headed for the coordinates Dr. Torres had shown me. 8 hours of hiking through darkness, pushing myself harder than I'd ever pushed before. I reached the upper drainage at dawn, found the shelter, a rock overhang with evidence of recent occupation. And there they were, 2 juveniles, maybe 12 years old, huddled together. An elder, gray-furred and moving stiffly, watching me approach with clear recognition of what I represented. Human. Threat. Danger. I stopped at respectful distance, raised my hands, and used the only thing I had, Walker's gesture, the one he'd used before disappearing into the forest after I'd saved him. Right hand over my heart. The elder cocked her head, made a questioning sound. I pulled out my tablet, not the official one, my personal device with no tracking enabled. I'd loaded a video, the warehouse footage of Walker and River, unconscious, being transported. I played it for them. They understood immediately. Vocalizations of distress. The juveniles clutching the elder. Horror and grief in postures that transcended species. Then I showed them the map, pointed at their current location, pointed at the dots representing search teams, pointed north, deeper into the wilderness beyond the search parameters. Run. Hide. They're coming for you. The elder studied the map for a long time. Then she looked at me, and I saw the question in her eyes. Why help us now? I didn't have a good answer. Just because I was wrong about everything. And this is the only way I can make it right. The elder made a decision. She vocalized to the juveniles complex patterns that were clearly instruction. They responded with what sounded like protest, but she was firm, authoritative. They acquiesced. Then she did something that broke me. She approached, close enough to touch, and she placed her hand on my shoulder. The same gesture Walker had made, but transformed. Not gratitude, forgiveness. She understood what I'd done, the betrayal, the attempt at redemption, and she was choosing to accept my help despite knowing what I was. She gestured for me to follow and began moving north. The juveniles followed her. I fell in behind, keeping distance, letting them set the pace. We hiked for 3 hours. She moved with purpose, following trails I couldn't see, navigating terrain with the certainty of someone who'd lived here for decades. The juveniles were less confident, looking back frequently, checking on the elder, checking on me, trying to understand why a human was helping them flee other humans. We reached a section of wilderness so remote I'd never seen it on any map. A box canyon with a hidden entrance accessible only by squeezing through a crack in the rock that something their size could barely fit through. The elder stopped at the entrance, vocalized. Within minutes, 3 more emerged. 2 adults, 1 male, 1 female, and another juvenile, younger than the others. 7 total. A family, a community. The male approached me immediately, aggressive posture, vocalizations that needed no translation. Threat, human, kill. The elder intervened, vocalized extensively. I caught what might have been Walker's name pattern. Explanations, context. The male listened, skeptical, but eventually backed down. Then the elder did something extraordinary. She sat down, gestured for me to sit facing her, and she began to vocalize. Long, complex patterns that had the cadence of storytelling. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the intent. She was telling me their history, who they were, where they'd come from, what they'd survived. The other adults added details. The juveniles listened, learning. This was oral tradition, cultural transmission, history being recorded in real time because she knew, they knew, that this might be the last chance to share it with anyone who could carry it beyond their community. I recorded it all, not with official equipment, with my personal phone, audio only, committed to memory, that this would never be shared with the people who'd hired me. The elder spoke for nearly an hour. Then she stopped, made a gesture. Your turn. She wanted my story, wanted to understand who I was, why I'd betrayed them, why I'd returned to help. I tried, used gestures, drawings in the dirt, simple words even though they couldn't understand the language. I showed them Walker's capture on video. Their reaction, grief, fury, helplessness, confirmed they understood completely. Then I showed them something else. Photos I'd taken covertly in the facility. Walker and River in adjacent cells. Medical equipment, armed guards, but also the veterinarians treating Walker's wound carefully, River being given clean water, food, space to rest. Evidence that despite everything, there were people in that facility who saw them as worthy of care. It was a pathetic offering. Your family is imprisoned, but they're being treated humanely. The elder studied the images for a long time. Then she made a decision. She vocalized to the group, clear instruction. They began gathering items, bundled supplies wrapped in leaves and bark, tools made from stone and wood, everything portable that defined their culture. They were abandoning this shelter, this territory. Because of me, they were losing their home. The male approached again, this time not aggressive. He carried something, a bundle wrapped carefully. He set it at my feet and backed away. I unwrapped it. Inside were carved figures, dozens of them, roughly humanoid shapes made from wood, stone, bone, each one unique, each one marked with symbols I couldn't read. What is this? I asked, though they couldn't answer. The elder touched the figures, then touched her chest. Then she gestured at the group. These are us, our ancestors, our memory. They were giving me their history, their cultural artifacts, everything that proved they'd existed, thought, created, loved, because they believed they might not survive what was coming, and they wanted someone to remember. I broke down, sat there in the dirt surrounded by hand-carved history of a people I'd helped in danger, and wept. The elder waited for me to compose myself. Then she vocalized one more thing, a question, from her posture and tone. Will you help us reach safety? Yes, I said. As far as I can, as long as I can. She nodded, understanding. We spent the next 8 hours moving deeper into the wilderness. I guided them using my maps, showing them routes that avoided the search grid, territories that were too remote for the operation to sweep, but we both knew it was temporary. Sooner or later they'd be found. The technology was too advanced, the determination too strong. These beings could survive in wilderness, could hide from casual observation, but they couldn't hide from thermal satellites and coordinated search operations indefinitely. As the sun set, we reached a ridge that marked the edge of my knowledge. Beyond was terrain I'd never mapped, wilderness that might buy them weeks or months. The elder stopped, turned to me, made a final gesture. Go back. You've done what you can. They'll know I helped you. I'll be arrested. She tilted her head. We know. Gratitude. What will you do? Where will you go? She gestured broadly. North. Deeper. Away. Where humans don't follow. There's nowhere left like that. Not really. She made a sound. Sad. Knowing. Then we disappear. Or we end. But free. Choice ours. The juveniles approached. One by one they touched my hand. Brief contact. Acknowledgement. Farewell. Then they were gone. Moving into the darkness, into territory beyond maps. Beyond my ability to help or harm further. I stood on that ridge until I couldn't see them anymore. Then I turned back, knowing that in the morning, when I returned to the facility, I'd be arrested. Charged with obstruction, conspiracy, possibly espionage depending on how aggressively they wanted to prosecute, but also knowing I'd finally done something right. I'd saved a life on that creek bank, and I'd helped save 7 more by giving them a chance to run. It wasn't enough. It didn't undo the harm, but it was something. And sometimes, something is all you can offer. I was arrested at 600 hours, 3 miles from the facility. They'd been tracking my phone. Obviously. Agent Chen read me my rights while Colonel Wade stood watching, his expression carved from stone. Obstruction of a federal operation, aiding in the flight of subjects under protective custody, theft of classified information. Do you understand these charges? Yes. Do you have anything to say? I helped a family escape imprisonment. I'd do it again. Wade stepped forward. You compromised a multi-million-dollar operation. Those subjects are critically endangered. We were providing protection, medical care, ensuring population viability. You've put them at greater risk. No, I said. You did that. By treating them like specimens instead of people. By deciding their freedom was less important than your data. They're animals. They're people. They have language, culture, tool use, art. They understand family, grief, freedom, everything that defines personhood except membership in Homo sapiens. That's exactly the definition that matters, Wade said. They're not human, which means they don't have human rights. They're wildlife, endangered wildlife that requires management. By that logic, if we discovered a lost tribe of humans in the Amazon, you'd trap them for study? False equivalency. These are a different species. So were Neanderthals. So were Denisovans. We interbred with them, shared culture with them. And if they'd survived to the present, would you capture them? Put them in zoos? Wade didn't answer. Because we both knew the truth. Yes, they probably would have. History showed what happened when civilized humans encountered populations we considered lesser. The result was always exploitation, no matter how benevolent the justification. I was held in federal detention for 6 days. No bail, flight risk apparently. My attorney was a public defender who was sympathetic but realistic. You're looking at 5 to 10 years. They have you on phone tracking, thermal surveillance showing you made contact with the subjects, and testimony from facility staff that you requested the overnight pass that enabled the escape. It wasn't an escape. I warned them about a capture operation. Legally, same thing. You interfered with a federal operation involving a protected species. They're not protected. They're not even classified. They don't exist legally. That's being remedied. Emergency endangered species listing is in process, which means retroactively, your actions constituted interference with endangered species protection. That's circular logic. That's federal law. She closed her briefcase. Unless you cooperate, tell them where the family went. Help them complete the capture operation. They'll reduce charges significantly. No, Mr. Carver, no. I won't help them finish what I disrupted. That family deserves freedom. They deserve to live without being monitored and managed and studied. Then you're going to prison. I know. On the 7th day, Dr. Torres visited. We spoke through security glass, phones to ears, the surreal distance of incarceration between us. Walker and River are healthy, she said without preamble, adjusting poorly to captivity but physically sound. River's pregnancy is progressing normally. They're keeping them separated from general research staff, only essential personnel. How humane of them. More than you'd expect. There's debate happening at the highest levels. Interior, agriculture, even the White House. What to do with them. How to classify them. Whether they qualify for legal personhood under existing frameworks. And what's the conclusion? Inconclusive. The scientific consensus is they're a distinct hominid species deserving of protection. The legal consensus is they're wildlife subject to federal management. The ethical consensus is there isn't one. We're in unprecedented territory, which means decisions are being made based on politics, not principles. And the loudest voices right now are arguing for maximum security protection, meaning permanent captivity in a managed facility. I felt sick. Walker and River will spend the rest of their lives in cages, unless something changes, unless public pressure, or legal intervention, or just basic human decency forces a different outcome. She leaned closer. But here's what they don't know. The family you helped escape? They're gone, completely off the grid, no thermal hits, no trail camera triggers, it's like they vanished. Good. Which means we have 2 captive subjects and 7 free ones. Which means if Walker and River are released, there's still a viable breeding population. Still hope for species survival in the wild. You think they'll release them? I think it's possible. Especially if the alternative is an ugly legal battle about whether they're people or property. No one wants this going to the Supreme Court with these ethical implications. She paused. Your sacrifice bought time, James, and it gave that family a chance. That matters. Doesn't feel like it matters much from in here. No, I imagine it doesn't. She stood to leave, then turned back. The artifacts, the carved figures, I kept them, not in official evidence, in my personal collection. When this is over, when you're out, I'll return them to you. They're not mine, no, but you're their keeper, until the family wants them back, until they can safely reclaim their own history. If that day ever comes, it will, she said. I have to believe that. Otherwise, none of this means anything. She left. I was returned to my cell, and I sat there, waiting for the legal process to grind forward, knowing I'd done something that felt right but couldn't be proven right. Something that would cost me years of freedom to give others a chance at the same. 3 weeks later, on my attorney's advice, I accepted a plea deal. 4 years, minimum security, in exchange for not testifying publicly about the operation. They wanted my silence. They got it, for a price that felt both too high and somehow exactly right. But before I was transferred to federal prison, I received one final communication. A letter, delivered through official channels but with no return address. Inside was a single feather, white-tailed deer, and a piece of bark with symbols carved into it. Symbols that matched the ones on the carved figures Dr. Torres was keeping. A message. From them. Saying what, I couldn't be sure, but I thought I understood. We remember. We survived. Thank you. Federal prison was educational, not in the ways the system intended, but in the ways that matter. I learned that indigenous rights activists had been fighting battles like this for centuries. I met a man serving time for destroying pipeline equipment on tribal land. He'd been protecting sacred sites from corporate exploitation. We traded stories. Mine about unknown hominids. His about the very known native peoples whose sovereignty meant nothing when profit was involved. Your story and mine are the same story, he said. Different names. Same pattern. Someone in power decides a people don't have rights because they're not the right kind of people. Then they take everything, call it protection, and punish anyone who resists. I learned that 3 other people were serving time for similar crimes, interfering with cryptid documentation operations. A woman in Oregon who'd helped a family escape a capture operation in the Cascades. A man in Montana who'd destroyed research equipment to protect a group living near Glacier. We weren't alone. We were part of a network. And I learned, through carefully passed information and coded letters, that the battle over Walker and River's status was escalating. Animal rights organizations argued for their release on the grounds that captivity of sentient beings was inherently cruel. Legal scholars filed amicus briefs arguing that hominid species should qualify for personhood protections. Indigenous groups filed suit claiming the operation violated treaties granting autonomy over traditional lands. The government's response was to classify everything. Walker and River's location became classified. Their health status became classified. The entire operation became wrapped in national security justifications that prevented public scrutiny. They'd made Walker and River disappear legally, even while keeping them physically captive. But on my 16th month in prison, something broke through the security. A video, leaked, posted simultaneously to hundreds of platforms before it could be scrubbed. It showed Walker, in a cell, 8 feet by 12 feet, concrete walls, reinforced glass. He was sitting in the corner, and he was carving. Using a piece of metal he'd somehow acquired, He was scratching patterns into the concrete, the same symbols I'd seen on the bark, the same patterns from the carved figures. He was creating art, recording history, maintaining culture despite everything. But it was the final seconds of the video that destroyed me. Walker turned toward the camera, made eye contact through the lens, and he vocalized. Even through compressed digital audio, I recognized the pattern. It was one from my brief time learning his language. Remember us. The video went viral. 30 million views in 48 hours. Public outrage, international pressure, ethicists, primatologists, legal scholars, all demanding transparency, demanding humane treatment, demanding recognition of Walker's obvious personhood. The government held a press conference, confirmed that 2 specimens of an unknown hominid species were in protective custody, insisted they were receiving excellent care, announced plans for a long-term species preservation facility that would house them permanently. A zoo. They were building a zoo. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Protests, legal challenges, a viral movement, yelling free Walker and River. But the government didn't budge. National security, endangered species protection, scientific value, all the justifications that mean we're doing this regardless of ethics. I watched from prison, helpless, as Walker's captivity became normalized, as the initial outrage faded into acceptance, as people moved on to the next crisis, and I wondered about the family I'd helped escape. Had they survived? Had they found safe territory? Or had they died in the wilderness, free but extinct, while their relatives lived in captivity? On my 23rd month, I received a visitor, Dr. Torres. She looked older, worn down by battles I could only imagine. They're moving them, she said without preamble. Next week, to a permanent facility in an undisclosed location. It's over, James. We lost. What about the legal challenges? Dismissed. Courts ruled that Fish and Wildlife has authority over unclassified species, that national security concerns override transparency requirements, that captivity is in the subject's best interest. She looked broken. I tried. I testified. I provided evidence of their cognitive abilities, their cultural complexity. It didn't matter. The judge ruled they're wildlife, sophisticated wildlife, but not people. Can we appeal? With what resources? The organizations fighting this are exhausted, outspent, outmaneuvered, and the public's moved on. She leaned forward. But there's something else. The reason I came. There's going to be a transport. Walker and River moved at night. Minimal security because they've been sedated for weeks to prevent resistance. And the route? It goes through wilderness areas adjacent to where you led the family. I understood immediately. You're telling me this why? Because there's a group planning to intercept the transport, disable the vehicles, release Walker and River, give them a chance to reunite with their family, if the family's still out there. That's prison time, for everyone involved. Yes, it is. She held my gaze. But you're already in prison, and you'll be released in 16 months. And when you are, there might be nothing left to save. Walker and River will be in a facility so secure, so remote, that no one will even know where they are. This is the last window. You're asking me to coordinate from inside federal prison. I'm asking if you know people who'd help, if you have connections from your time here, if the network you're part of would act. I thought about the indigenous activist 2 cells down, the woman from Oregon who'd done exactly this kind of operation, the man from Montana who'd said, sometimes you have to break unjust laws to uphold just principles. Yeah, I said. I know people. But Torres, if this fails, if they're caught, it'll set the movement back decades. It'll justify maximum security. It'll end any hope of eventual legal recognition. And if we do nothing, those outcomes happen anyway. Guaranteed. She stood. Your choice. But decide fast. The transport is in 6 days. I made phone calls, sent coded letters, used every network I'd built during incarceration, and 6 days later on a Forest Service road in the Klamath Wilderness, something happened that the government called terrorism, and I called liberation. The transport was intercepted. The guards were overwhelmed. Walker and River were freed, and they disappeared into the forest, toward the territory where maybe their family was waiting. They added 18 months to my sentence for conspiracy to commit domestic terrorism. The others involved received longer sentences. The network paid a heavy price for those few minutes of freedom. But Walker and River were gone, vanished. Thermal searches found nothing. Camera traps captured no evidence. For 3 months, the government searched and found only wilderness. Then the searches stopped. Officially due to budget constraints. Unofficially because continued failure was embarrassing. They'd lost two of the most valuable biological specimens in history, and they couldn't admit it, so they didn't. The entire operation was reclassified, buried. The press conference about the species preservation facility was quietly forgotten, and the leaked video of Walker was dismissed as sophisticated CGI in official statements. They'd made Walker and River disappear from public consciousness by pretending they'd never existed at all. But I knew the truth. The network knew. Dr. Torres knew. And somewhere in the Klamath Wilderness, Walker knew. He was free. I was released after 42 months. No ceremony, no press coverage, just a bus ticket and the clothes I'd been arrested in. Dr. Torres met me at the gate. Older, grayer, but smiling. Welcome back to the world. How bad is my reputation? Unemployable in any federal capacity. Possibly unhireable in most scientific fields. Definitely on watch lists. She handed me a bag. But there are organizations that appreciate your particular skills and ethical commitments. I've made introductions. The artifacts? In here. She gestured to the bag. All 47 figures. Preserved exactly as you left them. We drove to a diner, ordered coffee and sat in silence for a while, just adjusting to being on the same side of prison glass. Finally, she asked, "Do you think they made it? Walker, River, the family?" "I don't know. I hope so. River would have given birth by now, if the pregnancy progressed normally." She pulled out her tablet, showed me satellite imagery. There's been no thermal evidence of the family since the escape. No trail camera hits. No reported sightings. Either they died or they got better at hiding. My bet's on the latter. Mine too. She closed the tablet, which means we succeeded. Partially. We didn't stop the operation entirely, but we saved 7, possibly 9 individuals. We created space for them to survive outside human management. That's not nothing. It cost a lot of people a lot of years. Everything costs something. The question is whether the price was worth it. She looked at me directly. Was it? I thought about Walker, carving symbols in concrete, creating art in captivity, maintaining culture despite everything. Then I thought about him free, maybe teaching those patterns to his children, maybe sharing that culture with family who'd survived because someone had warned them. Yeah, I said. It was worth it. Good, because there's more work to do. She handed me a file. 3 other populations. Oregon, Washington, Montana. All under increasing pressure from development, climate change, human encroachment. All in need of advocacy from people who understand what's at stake. Advocacy that doesn't end in federal prison would be nice. We're learning, building legal frameworks, working with indigenous groups to establish protection protocols that respect autonomy rather than imposing management. It's slow, but it's progress. I opened the file. Maps, population estimates, risk assessments, the same data the government had compiled to enable captures, now being used to prevent them. What's my role? Consultant, advocate, witness, someone who can speak from experience about what happens when we prioritize documentation over dignity, someone who can help us build better approaches. And if I encounter them again, make contact? Then you make the same choice Walker made. You trust them to decide what they want, not what we think is best for them. It's been 3 years since my release. I've worked with 7 different organizations, helped establish 3 wilderness sanctuaries with specific protections against research operations, testified before Congress twice anonymously due to security concerns about the ethical implications of captive hominid research, and I've hiked hundreds of miles through territories where the populations live, not searching, not documenting, just being present, maintaining awareness, letting them know that not all humans come with tranquilizer guns. I've found evidence, tracks, arrangements, signs that they're still out there, still surviving, still adapting to an ever-changing world. But I haven't seen them, haven't made contact, and I'm okay with that. Because the greatest gift I can give them is the absence of my certainty, the acknowledgement that they know better than I do how to survive, that my help, well-intentioned as it was, came at a cost they didn't choose to pay. Walker saved himself from that flood. I just threw a rope. And when I betrayed that trust by leading federal agents to him, the best redemption I could offer was helping him escape. But that was still my decision, my intervention, my assumption that I knew what was right. The real growth, the real wisdom, is learning to step back, to advocate from a distance, to create space for their autonomy without needing to witness it, document it, or claim credit for it. Last week I received a package, no return address. Inside was a carving, a human figure holding a rope. Simple, elegant, unmistakable in meaning. We remember what you did, both parts, the harm and the help. I don't know who sent it. Walker, maybe. One of the family I helped escape, or perhaps another group entirely. One that's heard the story through their own networks and wants me to know I'm known. Either way, it's a reminder. I'm not forgotten. My actions, good and bad, ripple through their communities the same way their existence ripples through ours. We share this planet. We share responsibility for its protection. And sometimes, the most profound act of conservation is simply leaving something alone, letting it be wild, letting it be free, letting it exist beyond our need to know. The carving sits on my desk next to the 47 artifacts, a collection of evidence that they exist, they think, they create, they remember, and that's enough. I don't need to see them again, don't need to document them or study them or save them. I just need to protect the spaces where they can save themselves. And in doing that, in choosing restraint over intervention, maybe I've finally learned what it means to truly help, not by pulling them from floods or leading them from danger, but by making sure they have the freedom to face those challenges on their own terms. As people, not specimens, as neighbors, not subjects, as equals in a shared world we're all still learning to navigate.